and Lee, and good to have you here. And I explained a little bit in our meetings, separate meetings, about mediation, but I just wanted to talk a bit about the process again. I'm going to be following a prescribed model, and you don't need to worry about that. You just need to be able to have a free and open discussion of what's going on between the two of you. I will be asking questions. It's really I'm asking on behalf of the other. I would like you to direct your comments to each other as much as possible. I realize this is difficult. We've been having an issue go on for quite some time, and you both acknowledge that you'd like to have it resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with that attitude, that'll take us a long way. So I'm going to start off. This first part involves me talking a little bit, and I realize it may seem boring, but we have to get through it so until we get to the point where you start sharing information back and forth. I've asked you to sign the agreement to mediate, and thank you for handing those in. And that pretty much laid out a lot of the framework about mediating. I wanted to talk about a little bit about how we have this conversation. Is there any thoughts from either of you about how we have this conversation about the problem? I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking about. Are there any sort of trigger points or any issues that that may get dragged in that you don't want to be part of this? So, do you understand what I'm?
Not really.
Okay, all right. Then maybe we don't need to address that. I just there are times when it helps to kind of narrow the focus. But all right, I think I cleared that one up in a muddy sort of way. Sorry. Anyway, now we've got 45 minutes. Let's just see how far we can get, and if we need to meet again, we will.
Okay.
So please don't feel I'm rushing you, and if you need to say more, if you feel cut off, please let me know. And again, I'm neutral. If I look like I'm siding with one side or the other, please let me know, and we'll go on from there. Is there any questions about the mediation itself? Anything that I can explain? Okay. So I'd like you to have maybe have an opening expression. The first thing we're going to do is come up with topics. But first of all, I'd like to kind of have the two of you summarize why you're here. What do you hope to achieve today? What do you want to talk about? You look puzzled.
No.
Okay, you're all right. And just briefly, why don't you start, Lee? And just why are we here? What's the problem for you?
Well, I'm here because Janice went to HR and asked for this discussion.
Sure.
I'm glad to have it because I've been feeling that things weren't going well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a good thing to have.
So,
Errol, what on earth is going on around here?
okay. So the workplace relationship?
Yeah.
Janice, what would you like to talk about today?
I guess I'm not really sure what I want to talk. Well, yeah, I'm more confused about why Lee has been so mean lately, and it just seems like she's out to get me to try and fire me, and I'm really worried about that.
So, all right. I hear trust. I hear some vulnerability, and we'll get into those issues, those things later. But it sounds again it falls under that umbrella of workplace relationship and maybe communication in the office.
Yeah.
That would be a
Sure.
fairly broad way of putting it. Okay. Turn my back on because I just want to write these down so they're in front of us. All right. Gives us a direction to go. Now, I want to hear a little bit more about what's going on. Maybe you can tell me both about the first time you met.
Get them talking to each other. not
I'd like you to, Lee, can you tell Janice what you recall about sort of the early days and how things were? You've both been working there for what, 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
How were things in the beginning?
Great.
Can you tell Janice?
I thought that you were very excellent employee. And I think, I'm not sure if I was the one that gave you that promotion, not too long after I came. And so I thought that we were getting along really well.
And how was she? How did sorry, Janice? I'll get to you just in a second. But how did Janice strike you? As you liked each other. Can you tell me what you liked about her? Can you tell Janice what you liked about her?
I felt she was very professional.
Can you tell her?
You were professional. I guess that's what we're here about. Is I'm trying not to do something you didn't ask me to do. but now, I felt things were going well in the beginning, and I guess I'd like to get back to that.
Okay.
If we can.
Good to know. So you'd like to put things on the good terms like they once were.
Well, yeah. I mean, she said that I'm being mean.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
What are we talking?
Janice, when you first came to work with Lee, how did you get along? Do you remember your relationship back?
Well, like you said, I think we got along fairly well. You let me do my work, I did my work for you. I think we had a cordial relationship, and yeah.
Okay. So it sounded like it was a fairly normal office relationship to begin with.
Awkward word being was.
Okay. Now, Janice, would you tell Lee what happened? What changed that?
Well, she just,
Tell her.
well, I mean, a few weeks ago is a good example when you wanted that report and you had an unrealistic timeline to begin with. You didn't come and ask me why it was late. You just stood at my office door and made sure you spoke loud enough for everyone in the office to hear that you were ringing me out because it wasn't done. You didn't ask me any questions. You just assumed I was incompetent. I mean, that's an example of what's been going on.
Okay, I'm hearing that you felt threatened. You felt vulnerable at a vulnerable point, and that your workplace performance is being called into question.
Well, and I think the big thing is doing it in public in front of everybody,
Okay.
right? I mean, nobody should ever be talked to in that way in front of their coworkers.
Okay. Well, Lee, how does you feel hearing that? How does that land with you?
It really actually makes me quite angry
Why is that?
because it's been very difficult to initiate a conversation with you. Thanks. Janice. I have been observing that your high-level performance has not been as high as it was. And from my point of view, that report being 3 weeks late was an example of what I saw to be something that needed to be addressed. Now, I had asked, if I had emailed that you come to see me about the report. It didn't happen, so I came to see you. Yeah, I probably should have shut the door, but I didn't really feel that you would be comfortable with my doing that. So I don't know how to address things when you're being so reactive and sullen. I have to do my job. If I don't get a report when I'm supposed to have it, I don't have the details to go to the board. And if you're not telling me when it's coming, I have to ask you, don't I?
So you're saying you have pressures on you? And that you sound really frustrated, and I can tell by the way
I feel like I've tried, and I
Expressing
you know,
yourself.
it just kind of gets worse, and I don't even understand.
right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're looking for some clarity on what, is there any more to this?
Well, I get frustrated when I get nothing back.
Yes.
What
You get it. Okay. Now, Lee expressed her frustration that she's got people above her to report to, and she felt that your report was, how do you feel that, from what she said about,
Well, the report was late, but there was, I was sick. I had the flu for 4 days. One of my staff was away. She didn't even ask that. She just dumped all over me. And
Nor did you tell me.
That's kind of indicative of what's been going on.
Okay.
Is that now I'm afraid to approach her because that's her response. That she's not at all approachable, and I feel like she's, to be honest, that she's out to get me fired.
right, okay. Can I,
You're the one who's gonna get yourself fired.
all right, can I,
You see what I'm talking
I'm
about?
going
This
to-
is
I mean,
exactly-
really,
Okay,
you
I'm
know,
gonna
what is
change-
this about
I'm going to
anyway?
change the tact a little bit here, and I would like to know about, I would like to go back to when work was going reasonably well. How did you relate to each other?
I don't know what you want to know. Fine.
There was, but it seems like the discord between you is causing more friction, and
And
it
that's
just
what I keep saying,
escalating.
that I don't understand why it is she's reacting to me like this. And her not giving the information makes me react more. Like we're kind of in this real sick thing. And
Cycle.
I keep saying, I don't understand why that happened. I don't understand where you're coming from. And frankly, I'm tired of dealing with it.
And I'm seeing you two kind of do this, talk the same way around each other and not kind of meet. What's going on between you two? What do you think needs to happen for you to come to an understanding?
I don't really know. I just know I don't trust her.
And if you don't trust her, is this impeding your ability to kind of disclose how you're feeling now? Are you feeling right now that you can't speak freely?
No, not really. I don't really know what else I can tell you. I don't know what else you want from me.
Why don't you tell Lee what it feels like when you don't trust her? Can you tell Lee
What it feels like?
why?
Scary. Scary is what it feels like.
And can you give me, for instance, can you give her an incident of when you felt scared
I just did.
about the
When she was standing
standing in the doorway and yelling at you?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help my trust levels at all that she'll listen.
No, you acknowledged that, can you tell Janice, because you did acknowledge that you could have maybe handled that incident a little differently.
I tried to, is what I started by saying.
Right.
I tried to handle it differently. I didn't get a response, as usual. And yes, I'm acknowledging, I do react,
Okay.
absolutely. And I still don't get it,
Don't get what?
her attitude. Like, it was a problem before that incident. That's what I'm trying to say. That was a symptom,
Okay.
not what.
What was
caused.
the earliest point that you realized there was a problem?
I don't know, I'm just trying, I can't really put my finger on it. That's why I keep looking at you and saying, what is the problem? You don't trust me, what the heck does that mean? I don't even know.
Janice? What? You're looking a little resistant and looking like you don't want to talk.
Well, they don't really know what you want me to say, so so.
What do you
or
think the
respond.
problem is? When did it come up? When was the first?
The problem is I don't trust her, so I do hold back. There's no question.
Can you tell
What do you
Lee?
think I can do?
Can you tell Lee what happened that initially made you not trust her?
Well, a couple years ago, things were going on for me that are private. And you put this note on my desk that said, take time off. And you didn't even have the courtesy to come and talk to me about it. You just left this note on my desk saying, take time off. And it's like, I was doing a fine job. Why would you do that? Why would you just throw this note on my desk? Like, you don't think I'm qualified to do my work or what, you know?
So you assumed that she felt you were not doing your job well when you left. She left the note on the desk. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Lee, can you tell Janice what
Is
you
that
remember
what this
about
is
that?
about?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that what this is about? Oh my God. I actually was trying to be courteous to you because you're so private.
Yeah.
I sort of asked you a couple of questions because I was noticing you seemed depressed. You weren't engaging with others as much. Sometimes you were asking for extra time, and I thought there was something going on. And they drilled into us with HR that I'm not supposed to ask and get private. So it was my effort to try to give you some space so that you could do whatever. It wasn't anything to do with you not working well.
so
And I mean,
Janice,
gee, if that wasn't what I meant. When I, it was kind of an invitation to come and talk to you, which obviously didn't work.
so it feels the intention and the assumptions were missing somehow.
Yeah. And it's just been kind of a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's been this wall, and I was trying to help.
Janice, how do you feel when you hear that her intent is not to question your integrity? Can you tell Lee how?
Yeah, I just need to think about that for a minute. So you put that note on the desk you were trying to get me to talk to you.
Sort of like an offer, like, do you want time, would you like to have some time off? Is there something going on that we can help with? And it didn't mean at all that you weren't doing your job.
That's huge because, I was raised that you just work and do your job and, to not do that means you're not capable.
And you see, I don't take it that way. I think that if you need some time, you need some time. It's normal. And that's why we have that kind of capacity. We have, people realize that even if you're not sick yourself, sometimes things are going on. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. It doesn't mean anything except things going on. And that, I'm really sorry if that was what.
I just thought you didn't think I could handle my job.
No, that wasn't it. It wasn't at all. It was that I felt that if you took some personal time, it would be easier for you just to come to work and, I don't know. I sometimes need a break too. Call it a mental health break. That's what I do. Because if I don't, then coming to work, I'm not as at my best.
So why didn't you just come and say that to me? I don't understand. Like, it was this note that was just dropped.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I guess it's because you have this kind of privacy thing, right? You never talk about things at home. You never, the rest of us kind of come in and have our stories and stuff. And I've never seen you do that. So I was trying to respect that.
Mm.
How are you feeling, Jen?
Well, it's just a lot to kind of process and think about.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
because that
that's the
puts it
starting
in a
point.
very
Yeah.
different light for me. and usually you would say what you needed to me.
On work stuff, right? Like, has been easy for us to talk about work, but I really noticed that, you know, we haven't had any talk about the personal. So I was trying to go along with that and yet be empathetic in however I could. And not give you that idea.
Slant on your I just felt like it was kind of, you know, ship up or ship out sort of was a warning. And, yeah. So I just need to wrap my head around that.
And if you can think of it more as an offer.
Yeah, I just haven't experienced it that way before
From
anyone. You know, like in previous workplaces. It was like, that's not what I was.
stiff upper lip sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are bosses that are like that.
Yeah, and when you didn't come to me directly, which is what you've always done before, you're right, I assumed what happened.
Well, it sort of got worse. It was like, whoa, I guess I invaded your privacy. That's sort of what I thought had happened. You know, I tried not to. I did what I
Yeah.
tried not to do was what I thought had happened.
So
And
in future, if, God forbid, but if such a thing should arise again, how would you prefer her to approach you?
I think on something like that, it would be much better. I know I do like to keep my private life private, but I didn't understand why you were doing what you were doing, so I'd rather know why you're doing or saying something.
okay. Yeah. And I mean, when I was talking about the report, I knew that didn't go well, right? I mean, but I just didn't know what else to do. I mean, we'd just gotten in such a terrible place. And I wasn't getting what I needed to get. And I felt that I tried to ask and you didn't come to my office, so I felt like I had to go see you. And I didn't want to close the door.
And I
Because was
appreciate
afraid
that.
you would not like that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have because I didn't feel safe. I thought you were trying to get rid of me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not,
Right.
no, that's not the truth.
Okay, I'm hearing that now. Yeah, I'm hearing that now. But that was where I was coming from, was I thought you were, for some reason, and this was the turning point where you decided I wasn't doing a proper job, or I don't know, and it just went from there. And it just seemed like what you were doing was reinforcing that.
Yeah, I can see how that would go. It just seemed, I guess I was getting more and more frustrated because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the problem was. I didn't seem to be getting anywhere with it. It just was very,
Well,
very
you're right,
hard.
I can understand that because I put up walls. And I
Yeah,
imagine that was tough. Yeah. And it was protective, right? It was self.
mhm. Well, I mean, if you think I'm after you, I can see how that would happen.
What can I do how else can I help you today?
Well, I
Any
guess-
other questions you have?
You know, the whole thing that started to begin with was my feeling that perhaps you
An attempt to
yeah,
assist her, which
and
was
I don't know
not-
what to do again,
Right.
because you're so private, right?
Well, I think that just saying what's going on, and then I can say, yes, it is private stuff, I prefer not to talk about it, or, I mean, I don't mind saying that, because you're right, for the most part, I don't want to talk about it. But if that's, you know, if you're looking to help me, if you say, I'm just looking to help you, is there anything I can do to help you? It seems like this might be private, then I would know what you're trying to do.
All right, so say the offer to help to begin with. Yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, then, and I mean, the other piece of that is, I guess, now that I know that, I could just ask. If I'm worried about something, I can ask, but it just scared me when you left that note, and I just couldn't.
Well, I mean, you got so much time. I just thought, wow, you know, if you need some time, it's okay. That's kind of the culture. Like, I guess I was trying to explain that, and it didn't go so well.
Yeah, and it was because you didn't, you know, some of it was just around you not speaking to me.
And it was because I was afraid to invade
Mhm. Yeah, I get that now. And it's just hard for me. I've been raised that you don't air your laundry in public. You don't talk about that. Work is here, home is here,
Mhm.
right? And so you're right. I do tend to be pretty strong around that kind of stuff.
I think times are changing, I think it's, we've got facilities and people to help these days, and, that's part of the benefits that we offer as a company.
Yeah, that's not something that's easy for me to.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I just want to check in with you. Is there, where do you want to take it from here? Are you going to be okay?
Well, I guess I still need more information about the report. Like, that was so not like you. And I
Like
was
I
just
said-
kind of going, what is going on now?
It really was very simple. First of all, I didn't think 2 weeks was enough time, realistically, to get it done.
To get what, all the information?
All the information, yeah. And I didn't say that to you, which I probably should have done in the beginning. But again, given that I was afraid that you were looking to fire me, that was part of the reason I didn't want to look like I was being resistant to getting the work done. Because I'm not resistant to doing work. I just thought the time frame was unrealistic. And then, like I say, I had the flu for 4 days. So I was off work, sick, and so I did nothing. And then, as soon as I got back, the person who needs to collect the information for the report, they were off. So, and they were off the next week, basically. So it was kind of bad timing, right? It took up 2 weeks just between those two things before we even got to starting to collect data and stuff.
Mhm. So,
What are you making of the
I guess it's
report?
just that I don't know any of that.
Okay.
I need to know
Which brings up.
if I'm not getting something that I'm expecting to get, that impacts me.
So how would you like the communication to happen in future?
I guess to start with, if you don't think it's realistic, I'd like to know that. Let's talk about that before we make an agreement about when it's happening.
Right, if you're open to that.
Sure.
It didn't feel like you were open. You set a date.
Well, that was because that was when the board meeting, right? So I was planning on having it a day or so so I could figure out what the information was about, so I could present it. That was why I had that meeting. But, if you can't get it, I'd rather talk about that, and then I could be prepared at the board meeting about why I don't have it.
Can you tell Janice just how open you'll be to having her feedback and like when you give her assignments like that on the discussion about
I don't know how
timelines
long
and
it
that?
takes you, so I'm hoping that you'll tell me and we can have a conversation about it. I'm not coming along to say, oh, you must do this by, but I'm only have my own side of the information.
Okay.
Like, the board meeting's coming, and I didn't realize that Sarah was sick, for example, right? So just hearing all that would have been a good thing, right? When you couldn't get it at the time that we talked about.
I didn't know you were open to hearing that. I do now.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
in
then
the
I can
future,
sort of
I
deal
can.
with what I have to do, right? If I'm not going to get what I'm expecting, then I can think about it and when I go to the board, I can.
Yeah, and I don't
Why
like
not?
not giving you what you need. I think the other thing is that, maybe come a bit earlier. I don't know if that's possible or not, but.
What, to ask for the information, you mean?
Yeah. I don't know when it came up or anything, but I'm just thinking
Yeah.
that, if the board meeting's in 2.5 weeks and you come to me 2 weeks before, people get sick, people aren't there, they can't get the information or whatever. So if we have a longer
Lead time.
you're more likely to get what you need, right, when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, or we could break it down and say, let's get this amount of information first and say the rest is coming.
Sounds
That
like
would be-
you two are willing to work out the details.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a relief to
Yeah.
know
Good.
what has been going on, because as I said, it's just been
Good.
quite difficult to try to imagine what was happening.
Just tell me how the mediation process was for you. How did you feel it went?
I'm happy with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can go back to, well, I think we can go forward to a different.
Yeah, forward, I think, from here.
I want to thank you both for working hard and coming in with an open mind and listening to the other.
Well,
And,
thanks for
sometimes our
helping-
assumptions
helping
drive
open
us
it up
astray.
for-
You're
Yes.
very welcome.
What was happening.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate
You're very welcome. Thank you.